In the Tennessee Hill Country, an incredible David versus Goliath story is playing out. A massive federal agency making moves to take family farms. That's when a famous country music star stepped in.
Okay, that's it. Gloves off. I don't know what we're going to do, but fists up, here we come. And that's when the fight started.
A community up in arms in a modern version of The Grapes of Wrath.
The killing of Charlie Kirk has opened an investigation into the motivations of the shooter and raised questions about what is fueling the American divide.
The violence we are seeing is not purely organic.
This week, we talk with two experts about an active operation to destabilize our country.
The Chinese construct is more about unwinding key themes and messages.
The Russians, they don't care if they're radicalizing us to the right or to the left.
And a post-COVID concern about commercial air travel. Pilots who got the vaccine are suffering heart problems at rates higher than what the CDC said the natural average should be, considerably higher. A look at some facts behind a new fear of flying. Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. The Grapes of Wrath was a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel about Americans displaced from their farmland, in part due to government policies. Today, a true-life version is playing out in the rural South. A secretive, multi-billion-dollar federal agency is at the heart of an American battle between government and landowners. It's the Tennessee Valley Authority, led by a CEO who is making 26 times more than the President of the United States. In our story, the landowners are joined by a country music star turned activist who's fighting with a mission and a song. In the rolling hills of Cheatham County, Tennessee, outside Nashville, family farms stretch back generations, and a war over the land has broken out. On one side, hundreds of families like George Wade and his wife.
If it can happen to us, it can happen to you. Any federal bureaucracy, such as TVA, that answers to no one but the president is going to abuse you sooner or later. In this case, they absolutely invaded this county.
On the other side, the Tennessee Valley Authority, or TVA. A mammoth-sized power company and federal agency. Nanette Mahler's property was in the crosshairs. Can you tell me how you first heard and what you heard they wanted to do?
Well, in 2019, they sent an historical surveyor out to find out who lived here, how many people lived in the houses, if they had any historical value. That was 2019.
But that was TVA?
Well, he wouldn't tell me where he was from.
Eventually, Mahler says, a stream of mysterious visitors fessed up to why they were there, to explore building a giant methane gas and lithium-ion battery plant nearby.
I made the TVA guys walk down the road with me, and they said, where will the plant be? And I said, right there. And they shook their heads. And I said, now just tell me, will I be able to live here? Will my neighbors be able to live here? No, this was the answer. No. So at that point, I thought, okay, I've got nothing to lose. I've got to fight this tooth and nail. I think they thought we were just podunk country people out here, but we've got very intelligent people.
One of them, it turns out, is country music star John Rich.
So as I began to interview neighbors, I came here to Nanette's house. I went to George Wade's house. I started just really showing up with a selfie stick and an iPhone. I became an investigative journalist, kind of like what you do. Hey folks, John Rich here. I'm sitting in the
John Rich has a personal connection to Cheatham County, including family who still live here. He says he was moved by this video taken last year. It shows a TVA troop of unmarked trucks, surveyors, and armed security rolling in. Property owners didn't mince words.
For the record, I don't want you here. Just saying that. I want everybody to know I don't want you here. project hasn't been approved. There's no need for all this.
Well,
you guys are going around
anything
the due
you have
process.
to say needs to be directed through your attorney. Anything outside of what, a cordial us telling you what we are doing needs to be directed through your attorney, through our Office of General Counsel.
That day, the TVA parked their trucks on the farm of Sue Nicholson. She owns about 200 acres off Sweet Home Road. Neighbors recorded the encounter and explained to Nicholson why the TVA was there.
And they're here today to take some measurements of your property to put up some high voltage transmission lines.
You think you own something, you don't own nothing.
When you saw that video, what did you think the first time you saw it?
When I saw Miss Nicholson on that video, realizing what TVA was trying to do to her property, my blood ran absolutely cold, like ice water. And when I saw that old lady's face, the only thing I could think of was my Granny Rich. And I thought, that lady's not my Granny Rich, but she's somebody's Granny Rich. She'd been on that land her entire life. And who are these thugs coming out here? I mean, it looked like an ATF raid. Showing up on her property, loaded weapons, vests, standing there like this, like big tough guys. And I said, that is the most egregious, un-American, communistic tactic I've ever seen in my life. Okay, that's it, gloves off. I don't know what we're gonna do, but fists up, here we come. And that's when the fight started.
The Tennessee Valley Authority Act set out to change that. The key...
To understand this fight, you need to know more about the TVA. Created in 1933 under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, it was tasked with building dams and electrifying the rural South, and powering the Manhattan Project during World War II, the secret effort to build the first atomic bombs. Nearly a century later, the TVA remains virtually unchanged, controlling the power grid across 7 states and wielding immense power, answering only to the president, often seizing land through eminent domain when residents refuse to sell it. In fairness, Nashville's explosive growth has strained the region's power grid, prompting the TVA to act, and TVA has historically kept electric prices lower than the U.S. average.
They're going to have to blow all these roads out, rebuild all...
But what baffles Rich is why the agency seemed to be ignoring an alternative site it already owns, one that wouldn't displace anybody. On a boat ride with local mayors, they verified that the site of an old coal plant dismantled under President Obama could house the methane gas plant.
So basically what you're looking at is a wide open spot that could be used for electric generation.
It's all there.
It's all right there. So that begs the question, why are you coming to Cheatham County to tear it in half when you've got it sitting right here and you've got a county that would love to see TVA come right back here and turn it back on? Is that all accurate?
That's it. That's it.
So that's over a square mile of property that already has transmission lines, already has gas lines running to Nashville. All this infrastructure is there. Why on earth would TVA not do that? Why are they coming to Cheatham County and trying to tear this place to smithereens? And they said they won't answer that question.
To residents, suspicion is fueled by what they see as the TVA's secrecy, industry connections, and jaw-dropping executive salaries, topped off by its recent past CEO, Jeffrey Lyish. He raked in $10.5 million a year, making him likely the highest-paid government employee in the U.S.
I'm going to turn it over to the Wade family.
In July, Rich's relentless advocacy on social media and a text message to President Trump got the Trump administration to intervene. The TVA announced a sudden, huge change. Based upon feedback received in response to TVA's public scoping process and at board listening sessions with input from the TVA Board of Directors, the site off Lockersville Road is no longer TVA's preferred alternative. What are your thoughts about the notion that the community may have been successful in beating back plans that some people didn't like?
Well, I'll tell you this, if it were not for John Rich, they wouldn't have listened to us at all. We, the little people out here, do not have a voice. TVA has become a government-sanctioned mafia, and I'm not kidding. If this agency can come and do this, and they've done it for 100 years, if they can continue to do this in 2025, We don't live in America. It's a lie.
This is the TVA's gate that enters the property to where
Rich says this site may be off the table for now, but his job isn't done.
The unfortunate thing is Cheatham County is not unique in this situation. TVA not only has been doing this since the 1930s, they're doing it to other people too right now, this very second. There are other communities that are in the crosshairs as well. And this Cheatham County story, this David and Goliath story, it's a song. And so I wrote a song called The Devil and the TVA, because that's how they operate, and that's how they're thought of. The lyrics of the chorus start off with the words that Mrs. Nicholson said into the camera when she snapped out of her dementia for about 10 seconds. The chorus goes, you think you own something, but you don't own nothing.
When the government man comes around, puts his dirty ass boots on the ground, laughs at your protest with a gun and a bulletproof vest. He don't care what you have to say, he's just gonna do it anyway. He'll smile and grin and then take your farm away. He'll tear it all to hell right in your face. Now the devil ain't got nothing on the TVA.
TVA declined our repeated interview requests. For more on this story, check out my podcast, Full Measure After Hours. Coming up next on Full Measure is social media radicalizing millions of Americans. Today, a memorial service is being held in Arizona for free speech activist Charlie Kirk. Kirk was assassinated on September 10th while speaking on a college campus. Authorities say suspect Tyler Robinson may have been radicalized online, aided and abetted by an extended network of people who may have known about his plans. He's not the only accused killer with such ties. Lisa Fletcher has more.
In the week since Charlie Kirk's assassination, new details about the brazen crime have come into focus. The accused shooter, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, now charged with multiple crimes, including aggravated murder. Prosecutors say they will ask for the ultimate punishment.
Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
On Capitol Hill this past week, FBI Director Kash Patel revealed investigators are looking at more than 20 people who participated in an online chat with the alleged shooter.
I see the public reports that the Discord thread had as many as 20 additional users. It sounds like you're trying to run down all of that to see if that's accurate, who else may have been on that thread, what they may have known. Is that fair to say?
It's a lot more than that, and we're running them all down.
It's a lot more than 20?
Yes, sir.
Senators pressing for answers about what role social media, outside groups, and their money could have played.
The violence we are seeing is not purely organic. There is, I believe, significant money that is spreading dissension, that is spreading violence.
To better understand the possible online connections, we sat down earlier this week with two experts. Sam Havelock, a former Navy SEAL team commander and publisher of the SOFX report, which covers global conflicts, and Jen Golbeck, a professor at the University of Maryland, an expert on AI, radicalization, and extremism on social media.
There's a question of what role politics played in the assassination at all. From what we see so far, with very little information, it seems like this is more something from these kind of deep nihilistic social media spaces and something that was very explicit.
We know that the algorithms tend to feed the most vocal, narcissistic, and deeply flawed people on either end of the bell curve. So your average American is seeing mountains of fighting content that they think that they are at the brink of a civil war, when the vast majority of the middle of the bell curve is like, this is crazy, I know it's crazy, and I'm not that, but this is sure interesting to watch.
The avalanche of social media posts relating to Kirk's assassination noted by Republican Senator Eric Schmidt.
We've all seen the flood of posts on social media over the past week, not just a fringe few, but thousands upon thousands of people gleefully celebrating a father of two young children getting gunned down in broad daylight.
But how many of those inflammatory posts are real?
But what we can see is that there was this response from the right to people celebrating Charlie Kirk's killing, understandably reacting against that. But then we saw all of these accounts that were very clearly bots, repeating the same lines over and over. You could search for the same phrases and it would come up from dozens of small accounts. That suggests state actors running these bot farms that are trying to sow division in the American public.
Utah's Governor Spencer Cox believes America's rivals are actively sowing discord and hate.
We have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those, to turn off those streams.
Well, we're talking about foreign actors, and we're talking about radicalization.
Within the two contexts of, let's call it one context being Chinese malinfluence, and then the other context being Russian malinfluence or actors, the specific aims are a bit different, and Jen, I would think, would tend to agree. The Chinese construct is more about unwinding key themes and messages that the United States likes to propagate about China, about trying to influence the population at scale, that it's less of a threat per se, whereas the Russian construct is less elegant. Put it that way,
but incredibly effective, right? Because
yeah,
the Russians, they don't care if they're radicalizing us to the right or to the left or to some apolitical space. We can do that ourselves, and they're really good at pushing us. And that's been really effective over the last 10 years, where we've seen people move further out and pick up on these themes that we see the Russian bots pushing, of calling for retribution or extreme anger against the other side.
For Havelock, it's what we as Americans are doing to ourselves that is the most immediate concern.
When you look at the economic model of social media companies that are masquerading around as journalists, and they are not, and they are accelerating the distribution of content that in any other context would have been morally reprehensible, never seen in the construct of American journalism, the death of a human published at scale, over and over and over to masses of the population, we've not seen that. Do you mean to tell me that big tech companies in Silicon Valley can't stop that content from propagating? They absolutely can.
Well, part of the problem, some would say, is a topic you've covered, and they mentioned in the hearing, Section 230, immunity from lawsuits that social media companies have.
Exactly. It's part of what's called the Communications Decency Act, and it's a little provision that protects these companies from liability for what people post on their sites. Kash Patel said it is wildly out of control, and he would like to do away with Section 230.
They've been talking about that for a long time.
They have, yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. And ahead on Full Measure, is your pilot at risk of a mid-air health crisis after COVID vaccines? As air travel soars, lingering fears about COVID vaccine side effects cast a shadow over aviation safety. Passengers wonder if their vaccinated pilots could face sudden mid-air health crises. A 2022 survey revealed 23% of U.S. commercial and military pilots reported adverse effects, including heart inflammation, which can trigger sudden death. Sherry Walker, a researcher and a captain at a major airline, warns that official responses have sidestepped concerns, leaving critical questions about pilot health unanswered.
So it dawned on me that if we don't get true scientific study, if we don't get to the bottom of the issue, then that could harm my industry, which obviously I enjoy flying and I make a living at it. And if there is a problem, we're allowing these people to suffer in silence.
She says she devised the Oklahoma State pilot study and brought it to a large industry meeting in 2021.
And I walked around for 4 days with the QR code and a T-shirt that said Oklahoma State pilot study on it, and begged and pleaded and then I listened to the stories of the people who knew somebody. So we went from about 100 surveys to 1,422 responses shortly thereafter.
What did you learn?
Well, what I learned is scientifically proven that pilots are suffering myocarditis and pericarditis at rates higher than what the CDC said the national average should be for those who took the vaccine, and considerably higher.
What kinds of stories or anecdotes did you hear? Can you think of one?
Well, a lot of pilots are in the latter category. Oh my gosh, I'm having issues, my heart. One dear friend and I said, you need to ground yourself, you need to go to the doctor now. Oh, I can't because then I can't feed my kids and this and that. And so we learned a lot of that.
Did you get vaccinated?
No.
How did you manage to avoid it working as a commercial pilot?
It was a company mandate, and my husband, myself, 2,000 other employees of my company put in religious and or medical accommodation requests, and then we were effectively terminated. And then we went to court, and in February of 22, the Fifth Circuit reversed, and we were called back to work. By then, the contractor mandate and the OSHA mandates had fallen in the courts, so the pandemic was effectively over, and we all went back to work.
In the big picture, what do you think this tells us?
So what I proposed in my study was additional oversight, some congressional requirements to allow the or mandate that the FAA take a look at this, ask the question of pilots, are you vaccinated or unvaccinated? Not because we want to stop pilots from flying, but those frontline doctors that can treat or can recognize problems in advance can educate the pilot and say, hey, if you did and you see this, you might want to consider that. So, but it's all, heads in the sand right now.
Walker worries that pilots are already at increased risk for blood clots at flight altitudes, and that's also one of the risks of COVID vaccines. She's trying to get her study under the nose of important members of Congress and the FAA to address. After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Here's what's coming up next week on Full Measure. The CDC, under new leadership with the Trump administration, is planning to examine possible contributing causes to America's autism epidemic, including vaccines. If you would want to hold a hearing on an issue like vaccines and autism, your own leadership might fight you on that because of the financial influence the pharmaceutical industry
No, they wouldn't
has.
fight you. They would kill it. It's dead. They don't even want to discuss it. It's dead on arrival. If you as an individual member want to take on the pharmaceutical industries, it's forget it.
What media and industry advocates have long insisted is a myth is now getting a scientific evaluation next week on Full Measure. Until then, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching.